I wrote contracts. I did pitches to investors on the different teams in America and Australia. So it was a big exercise outside of my comfort zone. And then she told everyone that I got that role because I slept around. Blatant mean girl behavior. And I remember at that point, I was like, no more.
Look, we're not here to sell you transformation. We're here to share some truths. Because this stage of life can sneak up on you in the best possible way.
There's a new quiet swagger that comes with it. One you earn simply by being you. We'll walk with you. You don't have to be anywhere else. Turns out it's good here. And sometimes it's even great.
Welcome back to Turns Out This Gets Good. This week, we're going to talk about something that's sort of ebbed and flowed in our lives, toxicity.
Yeah, and I'm sure we've all experienced versions of toxicity, but the type we want to focus on today isn't the really super either dangerous or serious toxicity. It's more like the day-to-day quietly creeps in toxicity. And when we were doing a bit of research, something that struck me is, particularly if you're referring to toxic people, that it's not necessarily that they are toxic. They just have toxic behaviours. And in certain situations, that's not good for you. But in other situations, they're great to be around. So it's having the awareness and knowledge to know what works for you, not necessarily ruling people out or writing them off, right? That's
Do you know what? There's something you're going to love this little story. So we've both done work in the personal development industry with a couple of different speakers. And so I used to manage crew for a speaker, meaning the volunteer crew that showed up for 3,000 person participant rooms. And one time, one of my colleagues said to me, "Do you have your bear suit on?" And I'm like, "My what? My bear suit?" And he said, "Yeah, your energetic bear suit." I'm like, "I have no idea what you're talking about."
I don't either.
Yeah, it's good. You're going to love this. You're going to love this because
I need my glasses to be intelligent now.
Focus in on that one.
Yeah, focus.
Because you just said, sometimes a person, they're not always toxic. It can shift, right? Mm-hmm. Sometimes when you're running personal development seminars, people are going through a lot of shit. They go through a lot of personal stuff.
Yep.
And as the management of the room, we would be exposed to a lot of energetic shifts and people going through a lot of things. And so I would feel absolutely shattered, like drained to my core when I'd come home.
100% not a surprise.
Not a surprise. So the bear suit used to be this thing that we figuratively would say to each other, put a bear suit on. So it was like an energetic shield,
like a cloak.
Like a cloak or sometimes golden sleeping bag. But that stuck with me since that moment because toxicity has a lot to do with energy.
Yeah. Yeah, and I know also Gay will be obviously sharing with us on toxicity. Yeah. But the other interesting thing is she'll mention this. I think it's worth mentioning that to look at what you do because like we were saying,
bingo,
you're not necessarily a toxic person. Like we might think, no, we're not toxic, but there might be things that we do that to others feel that way. And Gay's definitely going to touch on how she goes, like, how are people perceiving me? She says this really great thing that while I'm busy perceiving them, of course, they're busy thinking about how I make them feel.
Yeah.
And we can often focus on oh my God, she said this thing and it made me feel X. But I think it's really worth doing that. So that's one side that someone might have a toxic behavior. Doesn't mean you write them off. It's either you might speak to them about it or you might just change the way you interact with them.
Put on the bear suit.
Yeah, you don't need to write a friend off. You might go, okay, we're really great when we go out to lunch, but I wouldn't travel with them. That kind of thing, right? And I think that's okay because there are certain things I'm sure we all do that annoy others that are not great in different situations. And then the second version of toxicity, which is really important to spot as well, is when you are tolerating far too many things or dynamics that are affecting you and it's sapping your energy. You're putting up with mean friends or the way a family member might speak to you or a colleague who's dismissive of you. It's just being clear about your boundaries and how you deal with that. So boundaries are okay. They're just filters on what you will and won't accept. And I know we've both got some stories on that. I want to jump into someone who's way more of an expert than we are on this. And I've got the glasses on so I can check into my notes because I wanted to really share this. I have touched on, and I probably will a few times, Mel Robbins and her let them theory. I am a massive fan, so apologies in advance, but I have listened to the audiobook 4 or 5 times, and I think it's something you need to do every 6 to 12 months because it's the most simple thing. And the insight here in relation to toxicity is let them. So the let them theory is letting people be who they are because they're going to be anyway.
Yeah.
But in relation to toxicity, and I wrote these notes, let them be mean, let them gossip, let them. You don't need to fix them. Why? Because you probably can't. You don't need to engage either. And the book is essentially a manual, if I had to pick, for protecting yourself from toxic people and situations. And the genius in it is how simple it is. Like if you just go, I'm just going to let them. Because I know, and this is the story I wanted to share from the older angle now, is we spend decades trying to manage how people feel about us. And you can't. And by 50 or as you get older, you finally just realize you can't control what they do. And you have to only control how you feel about it. And the story I wanted to share for me around toxicity, and I know you've got a version of it similar, and why let them is so important now, and I didn't used to. Like growing up as I got older, in my later years in high school and then again in university and at my start of my working career in my 20s, I certainly was affected by what people perceived who I was. So if you are tall and slim and like to wear nice clothes, regardless of the situation, mean people, aka mean girls, like said and did some really horrific things to me. And I definitely really, first of all, was so hurt by it, obviously. But the thing I did, which I would so do differently now, and that's kind of like the only thing you can control is yourself in those situations. It was very toxic, but I made it worse by one thing, and that is I became a wallflower. Like I was, okay, if they're going to say I look too this or too good or too fancy or too slim or whatever, I'm going to be skinnier.
Yeah.
Number one, not healthy, was not a good time. I'm going to retreat into the background. I'm going to maybe dull myself down. I'm not going to speak up. I'm not going to be me.
Yeah.
And I did that for quite some years, from my late teens at school right through university and into my 20s, until I finally started to feel better in my own skin. And it took a long time, and it wasn't till my 30s and beyond where I realized, and I didn't know the words for it, but you can't stop them. I mean, it happened to me when my son, even in my 30s, when my son was in primary school in kindy and first grade, and I would turn up to school, drop him off, and I'd be dressed up.
Yeah.
Because I was either going to a meeting but even if I wasn't going to work, that's just who I am, right? And Gay's very similar, and she talks about that a lot as well. And I would get, let's say, called something like princess. Let's just say that sums up the whole experience of my time like that, mean. But by that point, I didn't dumb myself down, or dull myself down, I should say, because I realized whatever I did not change how they felt. They'd made a decision on me, but the biggest shame was for me to make a decision on that was any different than being who I was. And I knew I was a good, kind person. I wasn't trying to outshine anybody. I wasn't trying to hurt anybody. I was just being me and what made me feel good. And I started to realize 2 things. I didn't know the words for it, but let them, because you can't change how they feel. But the other thing I started to do is go, you know what? I'm going to see if I can help them feel better about themselves. Ooh. So this person who called me princess, it was, what if I tried to help her, make her feel better about herself? Because ultimately, a lot of the time it is because someone doesn't feel good. If they're particularly commenting on your clothing, it's because they don't feel good about how they do it or how they look. So I've changed that, where I actually embrace and encourage people to feel better about themselves rather than putting someone else down. And I'm a big believer in that. Don't put somebody else down, change yourself. So that's what I started doing.
Wow. That's a big shift, let me just say for a minute here, because you being like feeling attacked and being attacked.
Totally. It felt that way. When I was young, that's how I saw it.
to start to change how you saw the world that profoundly, where like that's huge. How you looked at the world, how you looked at people like that.
And I only in just telling you this story, I realized that's how I shifted it. It wasn't so much that I went, here's the thing, guys. And I love that when we're having the conversations, I'm just having these light bulb moments. I didn't go, oh, bugger them. I'll just ignore them. I mean, that's a strategy and it's fine.
Yeah.
But actually I went, okay, how can I be me, but also make this situation better without giving up on myself, without compromising myself.
Yeah.
And it is really maybe led me to something I know you know about me, that I love helping people, whether it's going shopping. And I'm not saying going shopping is the be all and end all, but let me take you and show you what style suits you. Let me have you feel what it feels like to strut down the street, not in expensive gear necessarily, but in stuff that makes you feel good. Makes you feel good.
Yeah.
And you walk with a certain canter and you perform differently, you feel differently, you have a brightness about you when you do that for yourself. It's not as superficial as you think, as long as it's unique to you. You're not trying to be anything or spend a certain amount of money. That you lift the people around you. Because I know when I be me, other people go, actually, I've got all these beautiful things in my wardrobe and I should wear them more often, to everything, not just special moments, which, let's be honest, every day should be like that.
You just said something, when you be you. And that's the key, because you were talking through this story around being a wallflower and shutting down.
I did. I shut down.
You shut down. But it's so important to be you 100%, no matter what.
Your version of that.
Your version of that, yeah.
I might take someone shopping, but that doesn't mean they have to wear this certain thing or do. It's just choose the thing, choose the beauty that feels beautiful to you, because it changes you.
Toxicity.
It does. Like, whatever you're doing, going for a coffee, I don't care, going to the shops, picking up your kids. It's not about fancy. It's just about being free to be you. And just feeling a little more put together. And I'll say this, guys. This is my little line. Like, it takes just as long to put on a dress as it does to put on tracksuits. Maybe it takes longer to put on tracksuits. Just saying.
It's beautiful.
If you like dresses. If you like dresses. Nothing wrong with tracksuits, but sometimes get out of them. Yeah.
On that laneway of toxicity, toxic people or environments, remembering to be you, there's a whole sideline of that, or a laneway I'd like to go into briefly too, about people pleasing. So there's a woman I follow, Dr. Nicole LaPera on Instagram. Do you know when you hit the bell on Insta to get the alerts? Like
you get hers.
Push, yeah, I get hers because I love her stories.
Yeah.
And she talks a bit about people pleasing, and it's an interesting one because it has a slightly different way of looking at toxicity. And she actually, I'm going to read my little quote on her too. Her idea, right, is people pleasing is a survival response and not a personality trait. So on that point, when I was growing up, I moved around a lot. So my dad climbed the corporate ladder, typical American corporate ladder, corporate thing, and I moved around a lot. So I developed this, I guess, survival response of people pleasing a bit, to the point deeply to my own detriment. I know you're going to say something on this soon.
I will. And
it's coming.
And this is not the thing I'm going to say, but people pleasing also leads to, I'm a good girl. I'm going to do everything good. I'm going to be good. You're going to love me. I'm going to be great. You'll be proud of me. There's a whole other thing. So 3 quick stories on this and how I broke my pattern. First one was a girl in my teens into my 20s. One girlfriend, very close, was my quote-unquote best friend. Anytime I showed interest in a guy and would say to her, oh, I like that guy, she would immediately go after him and hook up with him. And this was like your closest friend at the time?
This was my best friend. But I let her. I let them in a bad way.
It's not the let them. It's not the let them I'm referring to.
I was I was through my moving and desire to be liked and have friends.
You didn't want to lose her friendship
friendship.
Yeah.
Another one around that time, another girlfriend that I moved into an apartment with. She used to go into my wardrobe or my closet and take things and wear my clothes.
And not ask you.
And never ask me. And she used to tell, I remember a couple guys I was dating, not at the same time, but... She would say really gross things. So we would be they'd come over and I'd go up to change or grab my handbag or whatever to go out on a date. And she'd make up the weirdest...
About you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Make up the weirdest things. Did I leave that relationship with her? Not for a while. So not soon enough. Then the third one that happened, there's so many others like this, but the one that kind of changed me was in a professional environment. Back when I was meeting you and I was working for a speaker, and I worked really hard to build actually the Billionaire Adventure Club, which I've spoken about before in previous episodes. I worked really hard. I wrote contracts. I did pitches to investors on the different teams in America and Australia. So it was a big exercise outside of my comfort zone. And then she told everyone that I got that role because I slept around. Blatant mean girl behavior. And I remember at that point, I was like, no more. That's it. No more. And I shut that relationship down, got her out of my life immediately. But it lingered. My feeling for women lingered. Right?
And this is where I'm going to jump in.
Ellie?
Yeah. Because I met you around all this time.
Yeah.
I only know this now. I didn't know then why, but Heather and I met nearly 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is around some of these stories that you're sharing.
More. 23 years ago. Okay,
So,
carry on.
No, and whilst I became a wallflower to try and deal with it, which it lets them win. It lets them live rent-free in your life, which is not cool. And what you did was you shut down. This is my perception, but we've talked about it.
Yeah, we have.
So we can tell you. Heather shut down to female friendship.
Yeah.
Or not entirely, but to trusting it. And how that translated for a long time, and this is where it's not fair that you allow these things to change who you are at the core. We were friends, but I always felt a wall with you. And you were great to be around. I loved your energy. You're a great person. You're all those great things then that you are now and what I love about you. But I just couldn't get close. And it's not like now we travel and we have such a intertwined life. We do work together.
Yeah.
But I couldn't get into that deeper friendship where we could talk about anything and have each other, not that we didn't have each other's back, that real deep level
trust. Yeah.
And I'd say to my husband, I just can't crack her. I was very aware of it. I just didn't know why. And it took a long time for you to tell me these stories. Yeah. And then I realized that women had let you down. Yeah. But unfortunately, what that meant is Heather no longer believed in the possibility of true friendship. And it's taken a long time. And I think that's what we wanted to, from our lens, share with you. We've both had those experiences from slightly different angles. And Gay, also the same. She's going to share very similar. Yeah. So unfortunately, it's a common thing. And I think the lens we wanted to come from is, yes, there's toxic behavior and toxic people. But for us, the only thing you can control is you. And it's just being really mindful of not only not allowing that behavior or figuring that out, but first not allowing it to change you. Yeah. I think that's, because again, key. We're not experts in how to fully remove toxic people from your life. If you're in that position, that's a whole different thing. But what I do know is it's really important you don't let it change you. And if it has, that's okay, because it did for Heather. And I think that's so common. But it's catching yourself and going, how do I stop that? How do I put up the boundaries and the changes and make it so that toxicity is theirs, not mine? Yeah.
Well said.
Every episode, we pause for wisdom from someone who's been through it and learned a thing or two. Here's a word from the wise.
I don't have any toxic people in my life anymore. Gotten rid of all that. I said, toxic people because they try to undermine your confidence by little words that you just know aren't right, okay? But I've started to learn to throw that back at people now. I never knew about that, like they could say something negative and then you say to them, could you just say that again? And to them, and it works to stop them. So I've just learnt that, but I don't have it, I must say, hardly ever in my life anymore. Had it as a younger woman, because of clothes, because of always looking sort of a bit outstanding, and I'm not being overly egotistical or anything like that. It's just the way it was, and people would try to put you down for it, to make you feel smaller, right? Or laugh at you make you into a joke. Not a nice joke. I get a nice joke, and I get the joke about myself most of the time because I like to laugh at myself. I know I can be stupid and funny, and I'm not even meaning to. So I'll laugh at myself, right? But people trying to laugh at you just so you feel bad is toxicity, isn't it? And you don't want those people in your life. I think there's a new thing about positive toxicity, being too positive all the time. That's a new topic that I've come across from reading things and watching things and whatever. Like sometimes you can't be completely positive because, hey, your husband just died. So you're sad. So you don't have to be positive all the time. You can be sad, or you can be, just don't have to do that. How do I come across to people? A lot of people don't think like that, do they? I think, you don't think like that. But I think a lot like that. Because I think, how do they perceive me? Because you're perceiving them. And they're going to perceive you on the way that they think anyway. But I do analyse myself a lot. I think I don't want to, not even real consciously. I'm just thinking about it a lot more. Yeah. And I think I'm so lucky to have the nature that I have, whether it's nurtured or whatever. But I think I was born with that happiness and love and compassion, empathy. I have an empathy with people that I kind of can see into their lives. I don't know if that makes sense. I can't see in their real lives, but I see whether they're sad or they've got something that's hurt them. And I think everybody has. Everybody has. And if you can see that, you'll get along with a lot more people.
Thanks so much for tuning in again, you guys. We so appreciate you. So, question for you. What's the quietest power move? Maybe it's just walking away without needing them to understand why. If today's episode hit, send it to someone who may be stuck in people-pleasing mode and could do with a gentle little reminder.
Yes, and next week we are focusing on redefining success. Because the definition we've been sold maybe necessarily isn't the version we are stuck with. Turns out, something good might be closer than you think.